Here today with Frits Scholton, who is the curator of this wonderful new Adriaen de Vries exhibit at the Rijksmuseum, Amsterdam. Frits, Adriaen de Vries was the son of a druggist from Den Haag. How did he rise to be a sculptor for the princes and kings of Europe?
Well, actually, we don't know exactly. We know that he was born in The Hague and he popped up in Florence at around his 20th. What happened in between and what sort of his teachers, we don't know who they were here in Holland. So it's a mystery, in fact.
And eventually he ended up in Florence and studied with who in Florence?
He studied with Gian Bologna. Gian Bologna was at that time one could say, most famous sculptor and certainly the most advanced sculptor in terms of workshop organizing, because he had really the most up-to-date workshop, producing all kinds of sculpture from sugar and candies to bronzes and marble. So an excellent place for a young sculptor to start and learn the job.
Now, while he was there, he developed techniques similar to Gian Bologna of balance, and was there or did there develop a artistic rivalry between the master and the pupil?
Not at that time, but certainly later, yes, when Adriaen de Vries worked as an independent sculptor, and knowing that Gian Bologna's style was more or less the most preferred style in Europe at the time, he had to compete with his former teacher. So in his early works you can certainly discern the influence of Gian Bologna and the ambition to emulate him.
Now, when he was at first Rudolph II, who at that time was the Holy Roman Emperor, wanted Gian Bologna to come and work in his court, but then settled for the pupil, and de Vries ended up there. What was it like in the court of Rudolph II at this time?
Well, it was at first of all, it was probably becoming the cultural capital of Europe, Prague, due to the patronage of the Emperor Rudolph. That's for sure, and it was a very strange situation with not only artists working there, but also alchemists, musicians, all kinds of, one might say, weird people in a way, coming together, and Rudolph forming the center of this group, not really interested in state affairs, but more interested in his role as a patron, as a cultural man, with a lot of ambition on that, in that field. And for that reason, Adriaen de Vries came in a very, very interesting, very boiling world, a sort of melting pot of all kinds of almost mystical or mystical influences, and well, it was magic and art together, one could say.
In that magic and art, de Vries used a special kind, unlike Gian Bologna, who mass-produced these. Adriaen de Vries did one of a kind, and he used a certain kind of method. Could you tell
Yeah, he made use of the lost wax method, but that Gian Bologna did too. But the difference is, in fact, that Adriaen de Vries used a direct casting method, which means that the model you or in clay and wax is going to be destroyed while you cast your work. So if something goes wrong during casting, your model is lost, you lose your model, and therefore it's a very risky method. Gian Bologna, on the other hand, made use of the indirect casting method, which means that you can prepare little parts of models and assemble them later. In series you could make 10 legs, for instance, and 10 torsos and so on, and just assemble them. So it's a completely different working method, resulting in the one case in unique bronzes and the other in series of bronzes.
Now, I noticed in this exhibit that there are a large number of horses and equestrian monuments. Was that for any particular reason?
Yes, that was for a particular reason. Rudolph was a horse lover. He had a large stable with famous horses, and he showed them. He considered them part of his collection, his art collection. The artificial works, this was made by nature, and or partly made by nature, of course. So the horses meant a lot to Rudolph, but also to others in Prague. Count of Waldstein, the general in the 30 Years' War, who also was a patron of de Vries, was also a horse lover, and for him de Vries also made horses. It was probably en vogue in Prague, you could say, at that time.
Now, this exhibit will be at the Rijksmuseum for how long, and then where will it go?
It will be here until the mid of March. The 13th of March is the closing date. Then it travels to Stockholm, where it will be shown during the summer. And I think by October it will be shown at the new Getty Museum at Los Angeles until the second week of 2000.
And when can the people come and see this exhibit here at the Rijksmuseum?
Any day. We are open throughout the week from 10 onwards, so everybody's welcome whenever he likes until 5 o'clock.
Well, thank you very much, Frits. This is David Heine from Miss Deer. This marvelous exhibit while it's here. A Forgotten Son of Holland.